For the past one year, she has been working on this topic, like identification of resistant sources for groundnut bud necrosis disease. And with this, she is concluding her master's work, and she already submitted her thesis to the university. And so today she is going to present her seminar in ICRISAT to complete the formalities of LSU. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Afsha Tabassum, research scholar in groundnut pathology. It is my pleasure to have you all on my thesis topic, that is identification of resistant sources to groundnut bud necrosis disease and groundnut genotypes. Firstly, the introduction to the groundnut crop. Groundnut is an important food legume which is grown in over 100 countries across 6 continents as an important source of edible oil, proteins, dietary fiber, vitamins and minerals. With an annual production of 41.19 million tons, with an area of 24.71 million, which is grown in an area of 24.71 million hectares, groundnut is basically grown in tropical and subtropical regions and warm temperate regions of the world. And groundnut is mainly grown in the rain-fed regions, which is a smallholder crop, and most of the 90% of the area is grown under semi-arid regions, which contribute about 90% of the world groundnut production area. When we come to India, we have an area about 47.66 lakh hectares with a production of 47.49 lakh tons and with a productivity of 996 kgs per hectare. In India, groundnut is basically grown in 5 states, that is Andhra Pradesh, now Telangana, Gujarat, and then Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra and Karnataka. Among these, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana and Gujarat contributes more than half of the area of the groundnut in the country. When we come to Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, it is basically grown in Nalgonda, Mahbubnagar. In Telangana, it is mainly grown in Mahbubnagar, Nalgonda, Warangal, and in Andhra Pradesh, Anantapur, Kurnool, Chittoor, Kadapa, Srikakulam and Visakhapatnam contribute are the major groundnut growing areas in Andhra Pradesh. Low inputs, rain-fed cultivation of the crop, and natural occurrence of several pests, diseases are main factors contributing to the low yield of the groundnut in the groundnut crop. And natural occurrence of 30 viruses representing 14 virus groups has been reported in groundnut from several countries. Among these, tospovirus are emerging as the emerging virus group. In India, 5 tospovirus groups are reported, that is groundnut bud necrosis virus, groundnut yellow spot virus, watermelon bud necrosis virus, iris yellow spot virus, and capsicum chlorosis virus. Among these, only GBNV, that is groundnut bud necrosis virus, is reported to infect the leguminous crops. And in India, 80% of the groundnut cultivation is taken up during the Kharif season, with late onset of monsoon. July to August sowings are taken up, and thrips, which is a vector to this GBNV, reaches the maximum population during this period, contributing to the massive losses to the crop. This in India, it was reported at IRA, that is Indian Agricultural Research Institute, in 1949. At first, it was thought to be tomato spotted wilt virus. Afterwards, during 1990, based upon the serological comparisons and nucleotide sequencing, it has been proved that it is distinct from TSWB. Then, in nature, it is transmitted by Thrips palmae in a propagative manner, whereas it is also mechanically transmissible in the glass house experiments. It is also mechanically transmissible. Practically, there are no control measures presently available to this virus, and cultural practices such as intercropping with fast-growing cereals, close planting, and then dense cropping has proved to be of little success, and the control of vector with the use of insecticides has also not been successful. Another problem is with the indiscriminate use of insecticides, there has been reports of the development of resistance to the insecticides to this vector, that is thrips swarming. So in this context, host plant resistance is the reliable and economical method for the resource poor farmers. Keeping in the economic importance of this disease and lack of resistant sources to this disease, the present investigation has been taken up with the following objectives. The first one is survey on instance and severity of groundnut bud necrosis disease in major groundnut growing areas of Andhra Pradesh. The second one is to identify field resistant sources to groundnut bud necrosis disease in selected groundnut genotypes. The third one is to differentiate groundnut bud necrosis virus resistant and vector resistant sources in identified resistant sources. Now coming to first objective, that is survey on instance and severity of groundnut bud necrosis disease in major groundnut growing areas of Andhra Pradesh. We have selected 3 districts, that is Karimnagar and Warangal in Telangana and Anantapur district in Andhra Pradesh, that is former Andhra Pradesh. In Anantapur district, we have surveyed during the Kharif and I have surveyed during the Kharif and Rabi season of the year 2013 and 14, whereas in Karimnagar and Warangal we have surveyed during the Rabi season. Anantapur and Warangal are the major groundnut growing areas in the Andhra Pradesh, whereas Karimnagar has been selected because the Chegityal region in Karimnagar is a hotspot for this GBN. It has been reported as a hotspot for GBND. Basically, this groundnut bud necrosis disease maximum occurrence will occur during the Kharif season. But when we have surveyed in Anantapur district during the Kharif season, there has been nil instance of this disease. The primary reason that could be attributed is the Parthenium historivorus, which is a reservoir host to this vector, has come to flowering late in the season due to late onset of monsoon. So by the time the weed has come to flowering, the crop has surpassed the susceptible stage, that is during 30 to 60 days. So this might have been the reason for the nil instance of this disease during Kharif. During the Rabi, we have surveyed in 3 districts, that is Anantapur, Warangal and Karimnagar. A total of 9 mandals comprising of 23 villages and 42 mandal fields have been surveyed. And the disease was in the range of 0 to 20% overall, whereas maximum incidence of 8.5 was observed in Anantapur district, and then very meager in the Karimnagar and Warangal, which was about 0.04 and 0.97. Overall, the average was about 3.47. Interestingly, only the Kadri 6 cultivar was predominantly grown in all these majorly growing groundnut growing districts which I have surveyed. K6 was a predominant cultivar. When we look into the Anantapur during the Rabi, maximum of 12.75 was observed in Nalamada Mandal and the least of 5.63 was observed in Oval Devara Cheru Mandal. As I said to you before, maximum incidence will occur during Kharif season, but I have reported an incidence of 8.5%, which is maximum among all the 3 districts surveyed. This could be attributed to the weed mainly. You can see the Parthenium weeds which were predominant during this Rabi season in this particular district. So this might be the reason for the predominant occurrence of this disease during the Rabi. Whereas when we look into the Warangal district, I have surveyed 2 districts, that Kurvi and Mehbubabad, among which Kurvi had a disease incidence of 1.25% and Mehbubabad was about 0.63%. Apart from low incidence in the Kharif season, because the thrips cannot survive in the low temperature, the other reason that could be attributed to the low incidence in the Karimnagar district in the Warangal district was the growing of fast growing cereals along the border crops. That could be one of the reasons for the low incidence in the Warangal district. Whereas in Karimnagar, maximum incidence was about 1.67% in Mallapur Mandal. And the reason that could be attributed to the low incidence in this is the dense cropping which was observed, the French bean intercropping with the groundnut, which was observed in this particular district. So these two reasons could have attributed, that is dense cropping and then intercropping with fast growing cereals, and good agronomic practices which could have eliminated the weed reservoir host, could be the reason for the less incidence in these two districts. Then during the Rabi, I have collected the samples from these three districts, and interestingly, the samples which were collected from Karimnagar and Warangal district showed negative results in the DAC LSA, whereas it was positive in with the samples that were collected in Nandapur district, and you can see the positive control which had a range of 2.47 to 2.472. The maximum absorbance range was almost nearly equal. You can see the samples which were collected were positive, and the percent infection based on ELISA was in the range of 33.33 to 83.33. And the samples were considered positive when the absorbance values were 5 times higher than the control. This is a plate showing the detection of GBNB samples in Anantapur through DAC LSA. And during the survey, apart from the type of cultivar which is grown in the stage of the crop, I have also recorded the major weeds that were occurring and were distributed in these groundnut growing areas. And in these three districts, majorly Partenium was a major weed in all the three districts that is acting as a major reservoir host to this vector, or to the vector host, to the vector. And apart from Partenium, there comes closely were Celosia argentea and then Tridex procumbens, where also Echinanthus aspera was predominant, and there were like certain weeds like Argemone, Simovagan reflectus, Lucas aspera, where these weeds which I have recorded have been not reported as an alternate host, like a reservoir host to the vector. So a further work can be done to confirm whether these weeds are attributing as a reservoir host to the vector. And coming to the second objective, that is to identify field resistant sources to groundnut bud necrosis disease in selected groundnut genotypes. I have selected about 40 advanced breeding lines with 2 checks, that is resistant check is ICGB 86031 and a susceptible check is JL24. For this field experiment, I have used an alpha lattice design. Each genotype grown in 4 meters rows of 3 rows, each in 4 meters length, and then the spacing was 16 to 25. The progressive symptom development in the field was, firstly, there would be chlorotic spots on the leaf, and then those chlorotic spots will turn to severe chlorosis of the top leaves, and then there would be necrosis of the terminal bud, and ultimately the death of the plant. The secondary symptoms are auxiliary shoot proliferation with the malformation of the leaflets, and then stunting of the plant. You can see the susceptible plant and the healthy. The average GB&D incidence in these 40 genotypes was in the range of 2.57 to 22.7%. In the resistant check, the incidence was about 4.04%, and in susceptible check, it was 25.45%. 4 genotypes, namely ICGB 07220, IC 00350, 00351 and 00211 were found to be superior to this resistant check ICGB 86031. Performance of the resistant check ICGB in the field, and then the susceptible check. You can see all these are susceptible. And one of the resistant genotype, ICGB 00201, which had a Spanish bunch, which was Spanish bunchy type, which had a Spanish bunch type of growth habit. Grouping of these genotype was done based upon the 0 to 5 scale, which was given by Pensuk et al. And there were about 8 genotypes which were resistant, and 24 genotypes which are moderately resistant, and 8 genotypes which are moderately susceptible. There were no entries belonging to highly resistant, susceptible, and highly susceptible in the field condition. Apart from the incidence, we have also recorded the severity, which were based upon the 1 to 5 scale, which was given by Sunker. A rating of 1 was given for the no disease symptom, and 2 was given for the no systemic symptom but with some spot on the leaf, and 3 was given for systemic symptoms with top leaf fluorosis and with no stunting, and 4 rating was given for the severe malformation of leaflets and stunting with the systemic infection, and 5 rating was given for the severe stunting and necrosis of the plant. The GBND severity in these 40 genotypes was in the range of 1.99 to 4.32, and in the resistant check it was 2.33 and 4.67 in the susceptible check. There were none of the genotypes that showed high disease severity compared to this susceptible check. Genotypes which were showing the resistant, moderately resistant, and moderately susceptible group, samples were collected and they were tested in the through DAC ELISA. The percent infection in the resistant was 0. There was no positive samples when the resistant check was tested in the ELISA, and the absorbance values was 0.157 to 0.354. And in the moderately resistant, the percent infection was 16.66 to 66.66. with an absorbance value of 0.137 to 2.91. In the moderately susceptible, it has shown 100% infection in the DAC ELISA with the absorbance values of 1.669 to 3.427. Coming to the third objective, that is to differentiate groundnut bud necrosis virus resistant and vector resistant sources in the identified resistant sources. For this, we have used 2 concentration of the virus, that is 1:10 and 1:100. And for each there were 3 replications, and for each replication 2 pots were used, and for each pot a minimum of 3 plants were maintained. Coming to the symptoms which are observed in the glass house by mechanical inoculation, firstly there will be chlorotic spots on the leaf which will turn to severe necrotic spots, and then there will be malformation of leaflets, and then the severe chlorosis of top leaves, and then brown streak on petiole, and then severe necrosis on or death of the plant. One more thing is the symptoms which are observed in the glass house or greenhouse will depend upon the host the virus strain and the host species and the genotype, and it also depends upon the environmental conditions, that is such as temperature. In the screening of this genotype at 1:10 virus concentration, the instance was, mean GBND instance was in the range of 0 to 100%, with resistance showing 72.22% and susceptible check was 94.44%. All the genotypes were highly susceptible at 1:10 virus concentration. At 1:100 virus concentration, the incidence was 0 to 100%, with the resistance check showing 26.67% and the susceptible check was showing 77.78%. Based on the 0 to 5 scale, when we group these genotypes at 1:10 dilution of the virus concentration, there were 2 genotypes which are moderately resistant, 4 that were moderately susceptible, 10 that were susceptible, and 24 were highly susceptible at 1:100 virus dilution. Moderately resistant genotype 00213, which was compared with the resistant check and the susceptible check. One is 10 to the power of -1 concentration, 10 to the power of -2. And the other one, the moderately susceptible one, ICGB 07220, which was compared with the resistant and susceptible check. When we look into the disease severity at 1:10 and 1:100 virus concentration, at 1:10, the disease severity was in the range of 1 to 5, and for the resistant check, it was the disease severity was 4, and for the susceptible check, it was 5. Whereas at 1:100 the virus concentration, it was in the range of 1 to 4, the resistant check showing that disease severity of on the 1 to 5 scale of 2, and then the susceptible check was showing a disease severity of 4. At 1:10 concentration, all the genotypes were highly susceptible, and the disease severity was in the range of 2 to 5. Whereas at 1:100 concentration, we were having moderately resistant, moderately susceptible, and highly susceptible group. So this moderately resistant and moderately susceptible group was showing a disease severity of 2, whereas susceptible and highly susceptible was showing a disease severity of 2 to 4. When these moderately resistant and moderately susceptible and susceptible group were subjected to Dacalesa, there were only at 1:100 virus concentration, there are only 2 moderately resistant genotypes which were showing infection based on percent infection based on ELISA was 6.11, 11 and 28.57, with observant values of 0.0090 to 1.624. And the moderately susceptible was showing the infection in the range of 12.5 to 50, with an observant values of 0.1 to 1.841. Susceptible grade, those genotypes were having a percent infection in the range of 73.33 to 93.75, with an observant value of 0.0942 to 1.941. So, plate showing the detection of brown samples which are collected from greenhouse. And coming to the conclusion, GBND incidence in Anantapur district during the Rabi season. It has been reported that GBND incidence majorly occurs during the Kharif season. But interestingly, in Anantapur district, there has been no reports of the incidence during the Kharif season, and only during the Rabi season the disease is reported. The major reason that could be attributed to is the occurrence of the PSND during the Kharif season, which is a major viral disease in Anantapur district during the Kharif. PSND is not a vector specific. Any kind of thrips thrips can cause the infection of this PSND. So whenever a Parthenian host, which is a reservoir host to both these viral diseases which are present, because PSND is not virus specific, so when a host is present, that feed host is present, it would be predominantly occupied by the other vectors apart from the thrips, rather than the thrips palmae. So due to the absence of the host during the Kharif season, there might have been no instance of the GBND in the Kharif season. And during the Rabi season, due to the prevalence of the presence of the weed host, we can say that might have been the reason for the disease incident in the Rabi. And Parthenian histophos were the predominant weed in all these 3 districts. So this being perennial could be the reservoir host to the thrips palmae. And there are certain weeds such as archimone, mexicana, cyanodactylon, Cyprus rotundus, Leucasastran, etc., which has been reported during this survey, but there are no reports whether these are acting as a reservoir host to this particular disease. So this need to be further, should be further investigated. When we come to the identification of vector resistant, in the field it is basically to the vector, the resistant is due to the vector, and in the greenhouse it is due to virus. These are the genotypes which have shown the ICGD 6146 has shown the resistant reaction in the field and moderately resistant reaction in the greenhouse, and ICGV 00213 has shown moderately resistant reaction in the field and both moderately resistant reaction in both the field and greenhouse condition. And the rest of the genotypes, you can see when it is a resistant in the field, it is moderately resistant, or when it is like resistant or susceptible. whatever the resistance that is being shown in the greenhouse, it is true to type of the resistance. Whatever the resistance that has been shown in the field, that could have been there could have been a disease escape, or there could have been not enough of disease pressure for 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 this showing this reaction. Like there could have been not enough of disease pressure, or there could have the plants could have escaped the disease. So this could have been for this whatever the reaction that has been shown in the field, but whatever the reaction that has been shown in the greenhouse, the true to type of the resistance of that particular genotype. All whatever the genotypes which I have shown in the earlier slide had a Spanish bunch growth habit, except ICGS 76 and ICS 48, which had Virginia bunch growth. And some of these genotypes, that is ICGB 00187, 00197, 202, 203, 213, 6146, and 9360 were also reported to be resistant to the foliar diseases such as early leaf spot, late leaf spot, and rust. And ICGB 3057, 7222, 7220, 5155, and ICS 48 has been reported to be drought resistant. Future prospects, systematic survey need to be conducted to know the instance and severity of GBND in other groundnut growing areas of Andhra Pradesh and in India, in different to know the major impact in the different agroclimatic regions of the country. And these genotypes need to be further evaluated to be used in the resistant breeding program. As these are advanced breeding lines, 2 to 3 seasons of screening would be helpful to release these varieties in the hotspot locations of GBND. And we need to further investigate the resistant mechanism, whether it is due to the vector or the virus, whether a particular genotype is showing the resistance to the vector or virus. That is, intricate mechanism which is contributing to this resistance has to be studied. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge my major my co-advisor over here, Dr. Hari Kishan Sudri, for his for always being available in spite of his busy schedule, and giving me an opportunity to work over here. And then all the staff of the groundnut pathology who are very cooperative, and it has been very interesting to work in that lab. And to my major advisor, Dr. Bharti Narayan Bhatt, the Department of Plant Pathology at Andhra, and then LSU, KSI, FETS, FMU, Security, Library, Housing and Food Services. Thank you all.
Okay, Afsha, thank you. So, will you take some questions? Okay, the floor is open for questions.
Anand, for Kharif season, how many fields you surveyed?
I have surveyed around 4 mandals.
In how many fields in those 4 mandals?
I think around 20 to 25 fields.
Exactly, that's what I'm telling you. Anantapur area is about 0.7 million hectares. Okay, and any conclusion based on 22 fields is very premature. And what could be the reason you were telling that absence of parthenium could be the reason for non-occurrence of bud necrosis disease in Kharif season? Is that right? What made you say so? Just because it is not occurring, so this is the reason?
No, as I've said to you, sir, PSND is not vector specific. So whatever the weed reservoir is present, so whatever the other thrips palmae are there, it would already been occupied by that vector. So there would be less chance for this thrips palmae to occur over there.
Which month you went to Anantapur?
I'm sorry, sir?
Which month you went to Anantapur in Kharif season for survey?
During October.
And for this post-rainy season, Rabi season?
February to March.
Okay. What is the percentage area in Rabi season? It's very, not more than 5 to 10%. That's where my question is. Anantapur is a very difficult district to sample systematically.
Yeah, that could have been one of the reasons, sir, as well. The time which we have surveyed, and then like there-
20%, that's where really, if you, some of these survey results are really so alarming. If somebody says to me that 20% bud necrosis disease is there in Karimnagar or for instance any district, it's very alarming figure for me. Maybe in research stations you can get, or 20%, do you mean fields
yes, sir.
or within field number of plants?
On the whole field, sir.
Okay. Say for instance, if we have 100 fields in this district, okay, and in those 100 fields, if we say 20% means 20% plants in each of the fields, is that right? That's very high figure. Because even at the height of bud necrosis, when we had, in 1988-89, we did in Raichur. So Raichur farm you will get a lot of bud necrosis, sometimes even 60-70%. But if you go to farmer's field, you have to really look for the bud necrosis disease, particularly in earlier stages. There, yeah, that's it. That's absolutely wrong. That's absolutely wrong.
Another thing, the October survey, by the time the crop covers whatever the RP infection, so they get the height. The RP infected plants, they get height. They get height.
So it's not a question of what I'm saying is, even if it is hiding, suppose if we are having 20 fields, out of that, if 16 fields are having few plants, you say this is 80%. To me, it's ridiculous. I will go that if this field is having 1,000 plants, for me 20% means 200 plants there. Otherwise, no. Percentage means that. And also, if you go in October, you can get little bit in those tips, okay, buds. But that really doesn't affect the yield at all. Because we saw in Raichur, when we used to have a lot of bud necrosis disease, you can report even almost 100% plants you will get. But if you uproot, they will have very, very fantastic yield. Unless it's a very initial symptom and then carried through. Unless that secondary symptom comes, it doesn't have much yield implications. So we have to be really very, very cautious while putting these results in a proper way. Sorry if I have been harsh.
Okay, if there are no questions, let us thank Afsha for giving seminar, and also personally I thank everybody for taking your time off and to attend this seminar. Thank you very much.